I never considered myself a man of adventure. Routine had always been my solace. Wake up, work, eat, sleep, repeat. Maybe that's why I took this solo road trip, a desperate attempt to break free from the monotony. I am Ravi Sharma, a 34 years old financial analyst, buried under spreadsheets, stock reports, and endless meetings. My life revolved around deadlines, late night coffee, and the constant pressure to perform. I lived in a small apartment in Pune, my world reduced to numbers on a screen. Friends were few, relationships fleeting. I had grown comfortable in my solitude. But lately, something inside me had begun to unravel. The weight of routine pressed on me like a vice, and I needed an escape. So, I packed my bags and drove with no destination in mind, hoping the open road would give me a sense of freedom. But I never expected to lose my way. The GPS died first. Then, the road vanished, swallowed by the forest. I should have turned back, but something compelled me forward, deeper into the trees, my tires crunching over dry leaves and stones. Then, the dirt road ended abruptly. With no signal and no sense of direction, I decided to explore on foot. The forest was eerily silent, save for the rustling of leaves and the occasional distant hoot of an owl. Then I saw it, a cave, hidden behind a tangled mess of vines. The entrance was narrow, almost as if it had been concealed deliberately. A strange chill ran down my spine, but curiosity won over caution. I stepped inside. Darkness swallowed me whole. The deeper I went, the colder it became, my breath fogging in the unnatural chill. The passage was long, stretching on for what felt like forever. And then suddenly, the tunnel opened up, and I emerged into an abandoned village, lost to time. The place looked as though its inhabitants had vanished in an instant. Carts sat half loaded with sack of grains, long turned to dust. Clay houses stood eerily intact, but their thatched roofs sagged under centuries of neglect. Torn laundry flapped in the wind like forgotten ghosts. Toys, tiny and fragile, lay scattered on the ground, waiting for hands that would never return. A bowl of rotten fruit sat untouched on the stone ledge, blackened and writhing with insects. The air itself carried the weight of something unfinished, something abandoned too suddenly. A creeping sense of unease settled over me. There were no footprints, no signs of struggle, no explanation for why the village had been left behind. Then came the whisperings. It was faint at first, a mere rustling, but then it grew. Murmurs in the language I didn't understand. Voices rising and falling like an eerie chant. I spun around, but the village remained empty. Shadows seemed to shift in the periphery of my vision, vanishing the moment I turned my head. Walking ahead, I saw the temple. The structure stood at the heart of the village, its walls cracked but still standing tall. As I stepped inside, I felt an immediate, suffocating presence. And there I saw it, a statue, unlike any god or goddesses I have ever seen. Black as obsidian, its face twisted into a grotesque mockery of life. Elongated limbs seemed to stretch unnaturally, its hollow eyes staring through me, The very air around it felt wrong, as if reality itself bent around this stark idol. Symbols I couldn't decipher covered the walls, etched into the stone like a desperate warning. And then I saw it, the same symbol marked on every house, every doorway, every relic in the village. Night fell too quickly. I had no choice but to take shelter inside one of the mud huts. I kept my phone's flashlight on, its dim glow offering little comfort. My exhaustion took over, and I drifted into uneasy dreams. In dreams, I saw the village as it once was. People filled the streets, their clothes ancient, their voices speaking in an unfamiliar tongue. The air smelled of fresh earth and burning incense. Children laughed, women carried baskets of grains, men bartered over livestock. Life thrived here until the ritual began. I was drawn to the temple again. This time, I wasn't alone. Villagers gathered before the dark statue, kneeling in reverence. The air grew thick with incense and chanting. It was a ritual for the harvest, an offering to the deity that governed their lands. A young woman was led to the altar, trembling. Her wrists were bound, her eyes wide with terror. This wasn't just a prayer, it was a sacrifice. The chief raised a blade above her head, reciting incantations. The villagers chanted in unison, their voices feverish with devotion. The flames in the temple flared unnaturally high, casting flickering shadows against the walls. But as the blade descended, the fire roared with a life of its own, shifting from orange to deep, abyssal black. A guttural sound, ancient and furious, echoed through the temple. The deity did not accept their offerings. The sacrifice had to be voluntary. The woman's terror, her unwillingness, tainted the ritual. The ground quaked, the statue shuddered, its surface cracking. From within those fissures, darkness bled like ink, twisting into the form of a monstrous shadow. Tendrils lashed out, dragging the villagers into its abyss. Their screams were deafening. The temple walls split, blood-red cracks running along the stone. The high priest shrieked, trying to complete the ritual, but it was too late. Their god had turned against them. One by one, they were consumed, their bodies dissolving into the black void. The village was erased from time, its people swallowed by the darkness they had worshipped. I jolted awake, my body slick with sweat. The whispers had returned, louder, urgent. The shadows were moving now, creeping towards me, stretching from the temple. The entity was still here, and it had seen me. Realizing the symbols held power, I traced them in the dirt, chanting the incantations from my visions as I remembered. The darkness recoiled, shrieking. I rushed to the temple, carving the sacred markings onto the statue itself. The entity roared in fury, its tendrils grasping at me as I completed the seal. With one final invocation, the abyss swallowed its own master, dragging the deity back into its prison. The village shimmered, and suddenly I saw them. The villagers, freed at last. Tears streamed down their translucent faces, their mouths forming silent words of gratitude. 100 souls, released from their torment. They reached out, their spectral hands brushing against me in a silent thanks. As my vision blurred, exhaustion claimed me. When I woke up, I was in hospital. My uncle and his wife told me I had been found unconscious by the roadside, my car untouched. There was no cave, no village, no dense forest. I cut my head in frustration and realized there was something etched into my palm. The symbol. It wasn't a dream, it was real.